Thank you very much. Where was you, Matt?
I I was letting you run a minute because I got my alert up.
Oh, that's good then. Cheers for that. Yeah, that's probably the best bit of the live, and I just haven't recorded, so
Let's do it again. No, they'll
uh,
watch it. They'll figure it out.
yes. But so I'm just getting rid of this message, so I get rid of the notification.
I'm
So
just
yeah,
going to turn
what?
you off.
Yeah, I mean, I cover it week in, week out, so it doesn't matter that it's missed, does it? So basically, the 4 hour obviously will be the 1 minute makes up this 15-minute leg. This 15 will make up the 4 hour leg. So if we say that that's the end, let's turn it red, turn it fatter, so you can see. Yep, so that high, and at the minute this is the low. So the 15-minute bearish structure will make up the 4 hour. Now, there's going to be times where it's not going to be too obvious. So on them occasions, obviously you can sometimes you can use say you can work your way through the time frames to determine whether you want to decide whether sometimes it'll maybe look like a one and it'll maybe be a 15 or vice versa. Obviously, if you can see, obviously if you just work through the different time frame structures, obviously often you can that will tell you whether you think it's one or the other. Um, so if this is the 4 hour leg, we can what we can do from there. So obviously I said I don't know if it's coming lower or whether it's going higher. So I'm going to go to the daily so we can see the more candles. We can start to maybe use a higher time frame to determine the bigger structure to determine whether we think that I'm going to need to clear some of that up, Anna. Yeah, that'll do for now. Yeah, we can use a higher time frame to determine whether we think that this 15-minute, obviously bearish, currently 15-minute bearish, we can determine whether we think that that's going to be a 4 hour pullback or if it's going to be a new 4 hour leg and it's going to start taking like major lows. So, oh, sorry, I just got questions. Yes. Just Matt can't hear me. I think he had this problem the other week as well. Um, so yeah, from obviously when we obviously we're at the higher sort of time frame that I would use. Obviously, you can go higher as well if you need to, but if we start thinking about weekly structures, or what I would consider weekly, then we might be waiting for a long time for a trade to sort of present itself. So I sort of tend to stop at the 4 hour, but if things get really confusing, then yeah, you can use an even higher one to maybe give you a little bit of a nudge, but this doesn't really help. I don't think on the not further back here anyway. But as for this leg here that we were just talking about, I don't want to draw because it'll bring all the other drawings back up. But I will get to it in a minute. So what we've had is not helpful. So if we look at it from a high time frame, I think we are technically maybe range bound, middle of the range, but possibly bearish. So we've had a low put in here, high. We took this low here, which means that would have been a change cap, but then it put a new high in. So we would then put the high to. So effectively, you would draw it from this somewhere down here, puts in a high, puts in a low, puts in the high. So bullish for that price action bit there. Then we take the low here. So we possibly switch bearish. possible mitigation of something up in this top 25%. Currently not taken the low yet. So I think higher time frame we are bearish and we're possibly coming back up into this sort of area where we are now for possible higher time frame lower prices. Um, but this is a mess. I'm not mega confident on that. But that's what makes sense. I think we're this sort of structure we just covered. I think because we've broken the low here, this low here, I think like I said, I think we are mitigating something up in all this wick high or just below. Yeah, there's a big bit of imbalance there. Or it looks to be. We'll mitigate something in all this. Unless it's made. No. Yeah, I think we're just mitigating whatever that is there, something there. So, and we've possibly, with another structure. So if we come like on a closer structure, we have got, so possibly, we go bullish from here. So there's that high, puts in this low. We break above here, pull back, take a high there, a couple of these, pull back. Now the tricky part of this is do we count this as a what I would class as a 4 hour? So I'm just going to put some drawings back on. Yeah. The question is so this is a 4 hour high for me. So the other time frame was higher, probably daily, weekly. So obviously some we get a break to the upside definitely in here on a 4 hour, I think. So I think I'd be yeah. Let's draw it out. Uh, so from there we get a low, high. I'll change this color in a minute. So this low here gets taken here, which means that none of this is external, this is internal. Obviously, you can see the trend line, it builds up as well. But this is obviously the lowest point it reaches before it then pulls back again. So this is the low after this one's taken. We pull back because this is the highest point before it then this level gets taken. So that one's there. I'm just going to put that on the bottom. We take the high, so this is a change of character here. We pull back there. Now, this is this is the tricky bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm yeah, move that across. This technically takes it. We maybe get a couple of swings lower. So the two options are this one. So if that's the structure, I'm just going to turn that red so you can see it. It's possibly that. If that's the case, the sort of area where we are now, so something in this, is the low. And if we're going to stay bullish, we will get a reaction from somewhere in this. Um, that's obviously why I've got the zone marked. There's also a possibility that this is just a 15-minute pullback, and maybe a 4 hour is this. So if this one I'm drawing now is the 4 hour structure, we then have scope to maybe think that it's maybe come lower into obviously it could come all the way back into this and still remain bullish. So we could do something like that. So from if we obviously think about that, the risk comes from for this. If we start thinking about buys from around here, it's slightly on the risky side because this sort of zone, this sort of area here is questionable on the structure. Now, I do think we are maybe the overall bigger one. Um, I know we're still on the daily. I'll come on the four.
It kind of fits better. Bigger one, doesn't it? It's neater.
Yeah, so
That little jiggy bit doesn't really fit with the other moves.
yes, I mean, if you look at the size of the other structures as well,
Yeah.
it's like the quite big pushes, and this one's a real small sort of thing. I
Mm.
mean, it's I don't really have a rule on the percentage of pullback, um, but if that's the structure there, obviously it only pulls back. It don't even pull back 50%. So, I'm more inclined for the bigger structure because I would sort of say you would want it to pull back at least 50%. So if that is the if you introduce that rule, like I said, I don't really have it as a major rule. It's yeah, it's not. I think in theory, so obviously I suppose the 50% rule's not it's a good guide, but obviously it's not definite because in theory, if obviously I'm happy that this is a 4 hour high. So if I draw a line from that high there, turn it red, bulk it up a bit so we can see it. So in theory, anything after it takes that high and pulls back is technically a valid setup because in a bullish structure, which is obviously what it's doing, its job is coming back to mitigate something that effectively either started the move or caused the continuation high to be broken. So the last obviously bullish high, which is we know is this one. We're happy with this one. So it could in theory, obviously it could be this order block in here or something in here. I've got this little red zone marked down here. Let me just remove that, sorry, so you can see. Yeah, this little red order block. That could be the order block because it takes liquidity here as well. That could be the cause of the continuation, where the banks put the money. They wanted to come back and mitigate that and then just continue higher. It's come back, it's did it relatively quickly, obviously created liquidity or whatever, blah blah blah. So that might have been what it actually come back for. So I think the 50% was down here somewhere, but I could just press back, I think. Yeah. Yes. So the 50% rule is a good rule. It's not guaranteed because as soon as it takes a high, it could just come back to something a bit higher. So it's not, the 50%'s a guide. It's a bit like the 25%, top and bottom, also a guide. It just obviously these guides are there as just a rule of thumb, just to try and protect us that little bit. So, but it's not a definite. There is going to be examples of where that them guides are not accurate. Like everything in trading, I guess it's not fully. There's no major full set rule, I guess. um. So yeah, sorry, so for the danger for this, obviously, because I think there's a good chance he's going to come in here and buy up anyway. Oh, that's someone new joining. So yeah, obviously the risk comes from is whether this is the 4 hour low or not. If it's obviously not, then there's a chance it's coming a bit lower into something in all of this. Obviously, it might have even like say we might have mitigated something way to the left, and we might now actually turn bearish anyway. And obviously, what will tell us that if we do take whatever the 4 hour lows is. So at the minute, it's a bit of a guessing game, slightly on the risky side. Um, we can obviously use. liquidity as a bit of a guide to determine whether we think it's coming lower. So if there's any major trend lines or anything like that that would we would think is coming lower, um, then it's a possibility. Don't really see anything major that stands out, but there's a lot of mess on my chart as well, to be fair, so should delete them. Not that one. What did I delete then? Yeah, that one. So yeah, it's a little slightly on the dangerous side, but there's there's good reasons obviously for it to be in this one. So there's a good obviously this point of interest. It's broken the 4 hour, come back mitigated it. It's then taken a further 15-minute high as well. So let's zoom in a touch. So the point of interest, obviously what I marked originally, takes liquidity here. It gets mitigated there, possibly there, one of the two. Yeah, here, this second one, that one's just shy of. Um, so this is the high that puts in the low that mitigates the 4 hour point of interest of the red zone. We then take that high, obviously well over here, and then the difficult thing about this one now, George might have this marked up differently, and I imagine he probably has. But I don't really mark up my 415 ones too greatly at the minute. But obviously, this is in the rule is for it is obviously it breaks the 15-minute high here. So if you obviously to bar replay it from start new, I say there, I don't know if it's the one after, but that'll do. So how I used to mark the zones is from there. I'd come on the 15-minute, start at the lowest. Oh, I don't want to do that. Back. So obviously from where it mitigates the 4 hour point of interest, basically come on and try and basically find the lowest 15-minute imbalance in all of that stuff there. So there's none in here. There's a little bit there obviously, but it gets mitigated. So it's from the point that I've bar replayed it where I'm coming back to look for the imbalance. So there's a lot of price action, possibly a lot of entries as well. Obviously all that's mitigated. Obviously, I've got a couple of imbalances on the lower time frames marked here. So first and lowest bit of imbalance I can see is this one here. So previously that's where I'd be looking for me. I'd basically wait for 1 minute to come into this zone, do a 1 minute break to the upside, and then obviously once it does out, look for it to come back and tag an entry zone. Still looks fairly. I mean, I don't think it's been mitigated. Let's go 2 hour. Obviously, there's trend line liquidity before it. Just I suppose it more so depends if it's actually come and done anything. Covered it all since it broke the 15. No, we're coming that way. So, but also obviously there's 15 there. We've come back. So we've also got liquidity slightly above liquidity here. We get a sweep, we get a break. There's a possible entry here. So while me saying that that's the lowest 15, it might not be the case. So that's what it's come for. I used to just work off the lowest. I started marking from the higher ones as well, as long as there was good good areas as well. Um, like I said, this one would have been a good one. The obviously the 1 minute lower time frame was still trending upwards. So if I'd have started seeing like that's like I say this 1 minute, obviously with this 1 minute structure, well the green structure, it's I don't want to say it's one really, but like yeah. So obviously we get that structure from obviously the point that it mitigates the 4 hour point of interest. This is why I trade differently now because once you start seeing all these structures, you start realizing that you can take a trade from obviously this breaks the 1 minute here. Obviously, it comes back, mitigates it, so you can get an earlier entry there. Obviously, you generally just have to be careful of this one. So this setup there, we would be 15-minute bearish. So you wouldn't really want to hold it past the 15-minute high. You'd want to obviously this is marked to an order block in here. Obviously, it does eventually hit it. It actually, in the end, breaks the 15-minute high as well. But if you was, like I say, if you was to take that because you was 15-minute bearish at that point of this trade, 1 minute, 1 minute bullish, or continued 1 minute, yeah, sorry, 1 minute bullish, but 15-minute bearish. So you'd be on the safe side, like I say, not aim for beyond it unless you're certain and you've got obviously good confirmations that make you believe that it's going to go 15-minute bullish. And then obviously this green structure continues to the upside. So we get low, high, low, high, low, obviously high, and I think that about takes us up to the high of the lot. Yeah, obviously it leads up here. High, high, low, yeah. And then obviously start of the what we've said was or would be the 4 hour pullback. um so yeah, good sort of area. I'd like to see some clear liquidity, I guess, being built, and we maybe I think that's going to take us way lower. This one here, yeah, never that one. Let's see. The thing is, obviously, we might generate the liquidity this week as well. So, and if the liquidity might not be there yet, I guess 8 o'clock. That's fine. Not good enough.
I'm, I'm never sure about those trend lines where the midpoint isn't in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, I mean it's okay, but
Yeah,
the the scope when the tie like this, the scope for error is higher, I would
yeah.
say.
It's
Now, I mean
classic,
that
isn't it?
one's clearly not a trend line anyway, but
Yeah,
we're talking with them if they was better, like say you let's say if we was to move it there. So if this let's say a touch was there, this with it being so close, like I said, just the margin for error is bigger. It's if there's
yeah,
three separate wide apart touches, then that's as accurate as you can possibly get, I imagine. So
yeah.
yeah, it's but there is going to be ones that are close and they're okay as well. Obviously they can be anywhere. It is
I'm
what it
looking
that
now.
is.
I'm looking now. I want one.
Yeah, you'll sure you'll pop up in the week and just I've got this.
Show you the trend line I
You
found.
was
Took me
I
six
think
hours, but I found it.
yeah yeah, but yeah, I'd definitely like to. I've turned my magnet off, so I suppose what I do is might be a little bit of a help, it might not. But I often pick a. Obviously, this is the lowest point at the minute, so I want this to be broken. So there's a good chance that if we are going to
Yeah,
continue up, this is likely the last touch, because obviously what we'd like to see is the pull back, last touch, pull back, sweep, obviously the whatever trend line if we can find one, and then we would want it to break likely above the furthest point it pulls back from the last touch. So last touch, pull back, sweep. Obviously that will be one of these as a final confirmation before we then can find an entry. So what I'd often do is just put one on what I think is possibly going to be the last touch or whatever, and then just keep hold of it, drag it until you see if you can get stuff to line up. There's maybe something here, but again, they're fairly close. And I've turned magnet off as well, so that doesn't help. Sure, no, no good. Um, there's not to say that there's not something coming down this way either, so turn magnet back off. I think we're going to struggle, to be fair. So maybe some I'll spend some time tomorrow doing. And then, like I say, there's obviously a chance that this is not the last touch, and it's still to be made, say, maybe tomorrow or whenever. um, so yeah, no, I can't. There's nothing I can see that I'm happy with anyway. So could still be being produced. Um, but yeah, ideally we will see some liquidity built. Ideally, it'll be maybe from that touch through across this one, as in it'll be nice and easy to spot. That would be perfect. Obviously, that this would change slightly then if that was the liquidity that's made. So from there, obviously, it's pulled back. Ideally, would like to see that that sweep, and then we would look to. It wouldn't even need to pull back that far. Just it'd be there, and then from there, I would like to see it break that one, and then it'll come back for an entry, and then buy up for a possible new 4 hour high. So, like I say, this is pull back there, 4 hour pullback, possible new 4 hour high. Assuming that obviously this zone here I've got marked isn't the overall reversal point, which is could be, it could well be, because of where we are. But that's the risk we take in trading. We can't be perfect. So, well, most of us can't. Is there any questions, peoples? No.
Nah,
Uh, see what that's tapped into. That might be an indication of what's going on. Don't think it's going to let me look at the seconds this far back, to be honest. So on the 5 minute, it's halfway through a imbalance. I don't think we're going to get the 1 10 second, are we? Yes. Oh, that's getting deleted. Oh, halfway through an imbalance still, but possibly fills the BPR. Um, I don't really see much above in that little zone there. That about fills that by the looks of it. So obviously what I'm doing now, so I was just thinking then more than talking. Obviously I'm just checking, see if there's anything major in here that would maybe make me think it's coming a touch higher before then. So if it's coming higher, the uh, buying from the top becomes dangerous, obviously, because if it's going to come higher, it would take out any zone that we have at the top. Um, Bar replay. So I suppose a lot of what I do is like a process of elimination as well. I don't really, I've never really spoke about that, but and again, I would say that's about fill any remaining imbalance in that. So the only other thing to, oh, the only other thing to do from there would be to check the 4 hour point of interest that I've got marked. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff above it as well, but obviously, it looks like the 15 mitigates something well in here. So obviously, the 15 is just my orange zone, so it looks like it mitigates something nice in there as well. But yeah, I'm not going to go through all that. I don't think. Hmm. So yeah, possibly a big reversal point that it's in. So, and what will tell us that obviously will be. I think what I'll do is just say is if it takes this, the low that we spoke about, then I think we're probably going to come a lot lower. But that there's a lot of time between now and then, so there'll be a couple of weeks at least, I imagine. So, yeah. Is there any questions, guys? Because anything, anything
Nah, not
anyone
really.
wants me to go over?
Nah, not really. I'm good, thank you.
I mean, if no one's got out, the ones I've just posted.
Yeah, not too
Uh,
bad.
yeah. What was the mate? I know you did
Uh,
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and US 30 might have played out. I haven't looked fully at that.
We'll do a quick one on Bitcoin, mate. Uh,
That was more of the structure. I've not delved into it,
mhm. Um,
I think.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Bitcoin is going well at the minute for the people that are in it buying, I guess. What are we at now? 95-ish. So I think higher time frame, mate. We are still technically bullish. I know it's obviously people are claiming it's on its ass, and it kind of has been. But if we look at the go on the daily, but I'll just call it higher. So structure wise, we are high. It's bullish from there. Obviously, pulls back, takes the high. So that's technically a higher high. We get a higher low. Let me just take some of these drawings off so it's a bit. So yeah, putting a high, putting a low. We take it just by a bit, not lows, but we pull back. Another high put in, higher low, higher high, possible higher low around here because obviously we've come back. I mean, that must be about 90% pullback into that. So this is a major point for me. And I think I said in a live, I mean, it'd be a couple of months ago, maybe now, December, October, yes. No, yeah, maybe a month and a half ago, something like that, that I think this is a major low. So I think if this gets taken, because obviously that's a big structure point. So even if we get two reversal swings the same as that. So let's measure that. Oh, yeah. So from that low, it says 5,170, basically 5,100 or 51,000 on the left one. So even if you get two bearish swings at that, you are 10. So let's count 10, 3. So if you get two matching bearish swings, well, it's below negative anyway, so can't cope with that. Yeah, because that last one's 75 to 20, so that's 50,000 in it. So high. Yeah, it could cope with two swings the size of, yeah, two bearish swings the size of that. So, but one would still, even one would still take it as to next to where fuck all, I guess. So, two bearish swings would be something like that, I guess, as a minimum, which takes you around about the 25,000 mark. So, that low that it's currently this low here, major point. Now, obviously, I'm a bit of an optimist with it. I hope it does well, but I don't own any. I don't hold or anything like that. But I hope for the people that have got money in it, I do hope that this is it's pulled back. This is maybe the turning point, and yeah, it's continues long, but whether it does or not is a completely different story. So leading up to that sort of structure, so I'll go back on a daily. So high that showed higher time frame still bullish. Yeah. So this is the fixed low at the minute. So leading up to that, I'm just going to stay on this so we can see the what I would class as a 4 hour after that. So we get obviously on the down pull, we get obviously a low, a high. We break the low here. So this low here. I'm not going to draw it because all the drawings will appear and it'll start getting messy. But this is the low that puts in this high. We then break it. So that low, we get it break to downside, pull back, new low, pull back, new low. We then break this high here because this is the low this is the high that puts in the low. And then we start making bullish structures again. So obviously low, high, low, high, low. Now, I've jumped straight from this high. I've completely ignored this high here because obviously it pulls back. So in a live scenario, I would have fallen for this 100%. So we get a low, we get a high. Let's see how messy it is. Yeah, a little bit. I'll zoom in. So this is going to happen every now and then. So this is the high, pull back, low, put in a new high, we pull back, we take the high. So I'd ignore this one because this obviously it does at the time. If you was watching that from there, like I say, you would say that's a low, new high. But what we do is we pull back, take this low out, and then we put in a new high. So at that point, obviously, like I said, I would have fell for it myself. I would have marked that as pretty downside. So that would have been a change of character as I was looking at it. I would then obviously be looking in here for sells. But then takes us again, takes the high. So I'll just turn that red again so you can see it. So because it retakes the high, so one of the rules for structure is what it does next is what confirms the previous. Now I always get confused with this. So what I mean by that is is that one rule, what it does next confirms a previous. So what it does next is it puts in a new high again, which allows for this to be a liquidity sweep. So, and then what it does next is confirms a previous. So this making a new high confirms that that is the obviously the 4 hour structure we are looking at. So that's worth watching a couple of times to maybe try and understand that, and that's why I would yeah, try and understand that. Now, obviously, that's 4 hour, and there is possible 15-minute structure to take into consideration on that. So, depending on what's in this, is we can. I mean, I've got this drawn as a 15-minute as well, but we're on a daily, so that's possibly wrong now. Um, but there's a possible. I mean, if we consider that this is a high, it pulls back a bit. There's maybe a 15-minute bearish structure going on in here that would also help us correct the 4 hour. So yes, 15. So yeah, there's a slightly less lower time frame structure that would maybe help us, pardon me, identify that the maybe this is a fake 4 hour high. So definitely worth rewatching that bit. Just gonna delete that. Um, delete that one. So from there, obviously, we definitely start breaking lower time frame, sorry, 4 hour time frame lows. So we break it here, we pull back, and we start making wild classes. Obviously, there's a 4 hour leg pullback. I'm hoping it might be a daily pullback. To be fair, it's and then there's a 15-minute structure going on to the lowest point it's currently just been. So we get a low, we break obviously the 4 hour, 15-minute pullback, 15-minute low, 15-minute lower high, 15-minute lower low. There's maybe something going on in here as well, which I've got marked. What time frame I'd call it, I don't know. There's a couple of things going on. So obviously we pull there's a now we're on the 2 hour, so this is likely a 15. It might be 15, it might be 5, 10. Probably not a one because there's a smaller structure going on that I can see. But basically, we pull back. Sorry, we put a low in. We pull back. We take the low again. So we take this low. We pull back. Don't take the high again. So there's possibly a little structure going on here, and then we hit the lowest point that it hits. Well, obviously just before the new year, early December, late November. So this is why I've got these marked because these obviously got both got taken. So from there. we have obviously we take this high that I obviously spoke about, just we pull back, we take the next one, so we take this one here as well, and then obviously we get another little pullback here, and then take the next high, but then we get obviously a big correction or whatever. So this is why this structure's slightly changed, obviously because of what's happened. It takes out what I would have considered a possible 15-minute low. Obviously, at the time, it was right, but then we get a big pullback. We readjust the structure again. And when did we take that next high there? So 15-minute high there, or a structure high. Maybe that's again, it's tight. You'd have to see what your own rules are on that. It technically meets the rules for me. I just prefer it obviously when it's nice and clean. Um, but we do take this high, just we then pull back. We've taken the high again, so that's the possible 15 at the minute. So What will obviously because we're 4 hour bearish at the minute. Like I say, I'm hoping this is just a pullback. There's a what will tell us now, obviously, is what the 15 does. So we might just continue bullish until we like maybe take one of these two highs, and we'll maybe then get a 15-minute couple of bearish swings. Then hopefully for everybody that's in it and holders, we'll get a few more bullish swings. So I'd sort of maybe anticipate two bearish pullback swings, and then hopefully you get like 5 or 6 bullish swings, taking it higher. If not, if we are staying 4 hour bearish, then obviously it will do its thing. Not that one. We'll maybe pull up into this one here. So this one, no, sorry, could be any of them to be fair. You would of something in here. Obviously, this one, something in all this takes its first 4 hour low that I've got marked. It might pull up into this one again and mitigate something, and then turn 15-minute bearish again. Now, if it does, obviously it mitigates that, and it'll give you a 1 minute break to downside first, and then it'll obviously if it ends up taking the 15-minute low, which will be this one here, it will then come back into where I've got this marked, do another 1 minute break to downside before it then does its next 15-minute continuation. So at the minute we're 15-minute bullish, so we're technically daily bullish, 15-minute bullish, 4 hour bearish, and I don't know where the one's at, but I'm going to say the one's currently bearish. Yeah, currently 1 minute bearish, I think. But this well could change over the next couple of hours. So if this is the 15-minute high, 15-minute high there. Just going to delete some of these lines. Start new. Right, so just change to the 15. Yeah, I think that's okay. So
Okay.
what we say with that is so obviously there's liquidity. We use liquidity as a guide as to guide us where we sort of well, let's try and word this properly. We use liquidity, obviously, and imbalance. So there's imbalance here that leads to the cause of this liquidity being taken. Now, this order block here is the creator of the imbalance. So I would mark it like that, but I'll give it scope to possibly come down into that there. So order block sort of area created takes liquidity. So obviously this liquidity here, should people have spotted it, your average Joe and support and resistance traders, so Mr. Blundell maybe would look at this and go, "Well, it's a strong resistance, it's a ceiling, or whatever you want to call it." They'd be looking at getting in on this little touch here. So obviously they think it's very really strong. It's had 3 good touches. They're thinking they're going to get a lucky number 4th touch, and then they can sell off. And then obviously something goes on in all this where they go, "No, fuck you, we're taking your money." So there's a good chance that this area is what Price will want to come back to mitigate for a continuation to the upside if that's what he's going to do. Um, we can, yeah, that's about it, really. That's all I'd look for. Now, obviously, there's possible stuff lower as well that it might actually want to come for as well, but we can just all we can do is make up good confirmations on why we think something would come where it comes. Just trying to edge stuff in our own favour. That one's short, so I'm not counting that one. Now, that's probably a good example. So, obviously, this one being a touch short. Now, I think Tom poked his head up in the S&D chat the other day asking about trend lines. So, that one's a touch short. So, while it might still be considered liquidity to most, I would be very, very suspicious on that. That's not to say that there isn't any liquidity anywhere else. And I don't know. This is bang on 11 o'clock as well. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure on spread hour on Bitcoin. I don't think it has a spread hour. Obviously it's open 24/7, but this one's much more accurate. So I'm happy with that one. So of the two, obviously it's easy for us to just go, well, we'll mark both zones. But if you had to put your money on one, I would be putting my money on this one here because this trend line is much better, much more obvious, less. It's less questionable whether it's an actual trend line liquidity. That's the right way to phrase it. So that's definitely worth a markup. Just setting a limit on that. Oh, now you can narrow that zone down as well. Obviously, I've only marked on the 15. Obviously, as you see, we get a rather large bit of imbalance, a bit lower. What I would do personally is from the point it breaks. So this candle here that it's on, include that. From there, you can just jump straight out. I drop to the 10-second and just try and mark a couple of areas where I think it's maybe going to react from. So there's nothing major that stands out. We get a couple of bits up here. um, probably mark that. To be fair, I think the 10-second on Bitcoin's quite slow. It's, you normally get good ones on the 1 second. But as you see, bit of BPR in here obviously gets filled though from the point that we're looking, but great indication on sort of things that we should be looking for. It's filled, so that would be a BPR. But that just shows the accuracy of what we can actually do. So if that was live still, it's not, so it don't really matter, but something like that would become your entry, and you can see that you can get super tight entries. I mean, obviously that wouldn't tag you in because there's spreads, whatever, but we can allow for that in our entries. So if obviously this is a tiny zone, if you know that if that's all you're aiming for as your entry and your stop loss just below, obviously with it being that tight, you just go, well, you're gonna have to add a bit to allow for spread if it's that tight. Now, if your zone's a bit bigger, you're likely to catch it anyway. But from there, we can just mark some of the imbalances, and then when price does come to quite like this here as well, such a big push. That's that there. So when price does come back, obviously you can set alerts on just the top of the box. You can set them on each of one of these lines if you want. But the way obviously why I trade, tend to get a bit of time, so I'd set an alert on the top of this box, and then I'll just keep my eye on it. So once price comes in, we're a bit away, but what price might do is obviously as it comes down over here, I'm going to draw it over here. It might tap the box, just shy of the imbalance, it then might pull back, touch the imbalance or something lower in there. You're then gonna, once it's in your box, I'm such a child. I can't believe I'm giggling at that on a live.
Come on, come on.
So as it touches the box, it's you would come back on. Obviously, your alert would go off. You'd go right. Say if your 1 minute high is up here, set an alert on that. Reset it on the low or just below, and then whichever one tags, you can then just re-alter it. So if you set one, if you set an alert on this 1 minute break there, and then one just below this one as it's tapped into. When it retakes the low, you can then just go, right, I just need to move that one there. And obviously, if it doesn't take it, obviously move that one just below. And then obviously if it takes it again, obviously you can move it to that one there. And then if obviously if it comes this low to this lowest imbalance I've just marked, you kind of know if it takes that one, it's going to take the low and it's coming lower for something. Now, obviously, it might be the zone we said that's not great liquidity. A different feed might be better and cleaner. So, but from there, like I say, you just if you're getting late at these points, you can just move the lines to your next 1 minute structure, and then it's just a case of if it takes this one here. So if price comes up there, takes that 1 minute high, you're just looking in this leg here for an entry zone, and you're looking for like an imbalance, like obviously we looked at in there. That's my current prediction at the minute for Bitcoin. I think we've still got plenty to go higher for at the minute. So obviously there's good bits of imbalance in all this as well. Um, you could even maybe start to look for places where you might actually want to take your TP2 if it some approaches. So we've got that there. Looks relatively good. Obviously, we need check-in on a low time frame, but it's the same principle. So the reason why we marked the other zone, so there's liquidity here, you could then say something above that caused that, and then you can start just going, well, if it starts hitting this area, you might get the break to the downside because we have whatever this structure is here. Now, I said that's a possible pullback. That might be classed as a 1 minute pullback, and your 15 minutes the bigger one, which means this is a possible turning point. So obviously, if we do get that buy from here, this is going to be your area where I'd be saying, well, we've built liquidity, we've taken it, we're maybe just coming to mitigate something in this before we then continue lower. So holding beyond that is dangerous. Now, like I say, we are higher time frame, daily, bullish still, but like I say, we're 4 hours, so the 4 hour might pull back into this and then continue down. We don't know. So risky holding beyond that if we catch the buy from there. You might get lucky in holding it, might just fucking do an all-time high. But, it depends. I suppose it comes down to what you're willing to risk yourself. But I mean, something like that, a move like that on Bitcoin is if you can get a good entry, like you're looking at phenomenal moves. So these look relatively small on obviously we're on the 2 hour, but this one here, just this little move here. So this is one I caught Boxing Day. Was it? No, yeah, Boxing Day. Um, so that's a 1 to 60. So if you catch that in the next 15-minute leg, so this is a 15-minute leg, yeah. So if you caught something like that from there to a new 15-minute high, like would nearly 170 to just past taking this high on a 15-minute leg. So catching a new 15-minute high, obviously from there is possibly big numbers. So I mean, I wouldn't recommend. Obviously, if you were sat at 100 odd R plus up to this point, and you go, "Well, I'm going to hold for more," like yeah, I won't be risking 100 R to maybe catch a bit more, knowing that this is there and this is dangerous, and it's a possible reversal point for new lows. So I'd say you'd be silly holding past that with the other structures that we've got. Yeah, right. I think that's it, guys. Unless there's questions.
No, I'm good. The Bitcoin bit was good. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah, thanks,
just
Lee.
the best bit was the first 5 minutes that I didn't record, by the way. So
What were we talking about then? Don't worry about it. We can
yeah,
talk about it tomorrow.
there's always next week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, guys. So I will catch you all in the chat.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good
Take
week,
it easy.
everyone.
See you later.
Cheers. Thank you.
Um,